Good evening. Day 3 is now complete for the Cheltenham Festival. Just for the sake of it, there's only 2 more days to go, and then I'll give you the continuation of the reviews. Obviously, lots happened today. New course. Well, different course to the first day, at least, anyway. Things do start to change. The dynamic of some of the races do get in there. They tend to be a bit more competitive, but lots of money horses, lots of well-gambled things that did all right today. Obviously, we started off with a not so good result for not I don't want to say like the sport in general, because it's a horse race and we know these things can happen, but obviously it would have been nice to see Envoy at least get round. Did look a little bit unsettled at the start of the race. I think Ruby touched on that after, but hey ho, like we know this is what it is, don't we? This is horse racing, and I obviously expected him to win. I don't think there's anyone out there that really didn't think he was going to win, other than a feeling or something like he would have to be off, like not at his best basically to not do it today. But I touched on this in a couple of videos that I did before, where I got a bit of feedback, is probably the best way to say it, where a horse like that, when they're jumping pretty much foot perfect all the way round, you're very naive to think of a horse is never going to make a mistake. They're never going to be in a situation where they're under pressure, or they're just not 100% that day, or they're just not feeling it. And I personally just like to see a horse make a little bit of a mistake at a fence, so you can see how they're going to handle it and at least know. And I'm not saying that he'd always make that same mistake again that he did today. It's just that, like Monkfish, his jumping was a little bit to the side a bit. He could put his feet right, he handled himself, and you saw his bad jump and he still managed to get the job done at Cheltenham. Shishkin, we know that he put himself right for a few fences on his, well, a couple of chase starts really, he did that on. So that was always a slight concern. That's not me here sitting here saying, oh, I knew that Envoy was going to fall. I didn't expect it in the slightest. But like I say, it's just from a critique angle. You need to think about that stuff. But hey, it was sad to see. Really, really good for Chantry House to go and get the job done, to be fair. He's always been a really nice horse. He and Fuser Raffles, I think the pair of those were on my horses to follow list. At least Fuser Raffles definitely was. He ran really well. Stepping up to this trip, I thought was going to be ideal for him. I do wonder whether he is just going to be shy of that top draw at this level. But he ran really well. Asterion Forlorns jumped so well for such a long way as well. So it was a decent race in its entirety. You do just wonder what would have happened if Envoy had stood up. I'm not 100% convinced, like I said, with the prelims and things like that he was at 100%. He was going to be running at his best, but maybe he still could have been good enough to do it. But we are where we are. We know this happens in horse racing, and you look back at some of the bad things that have happened, and I don't want to bring it all up, but like when Duvan did a hit, we've seen what's happened with some other horses, Sir Eric, well, any horse that loses a life. In the grand scheme of it, he's fallen, he seems fine, lived to fight another day. It's unfortunately part and parcel of horse racing, especially the jumps game. So, what happened after that? I'm just trying to think in the correct order because I don't want to balls up. I get a bit stumped when it comes to Thursday because it's got the 3 handicaps in it. So yes, Potemps was up next. Champagne Platinum ran okay. That was the one that I quite fancied in the race. Mrs. Milner, I really wasn't sure that she was actually going to see out the trip, but it just goes to show really the Irish do look quite a way bit ahead of us in their racing this year. Mrs. Milner won really well, to be fair. Start of Kevin Blake's won it, massive treble that he got up today, so fair play to him. Boss's Oscar ran well enough, though, was just never going to get to the winner. Come on Teddy for Tom George, Noel Feely Racing Syndicate, they did really well to finish where they did. Milliner, that I'd mentioned a few times before, he was supported, he just snuck in at the bottom. Arse Dillon ran well, was another one that I gave a little bit of a mention to, but it was a nice race. Mrs. Milner won, fair play to her. The Ryanair, though, oh, jeez. I've seen a comment come out that Willie Mullins, after the race, checked the weight cloth was still in, because I don't think he could really believe the performance. Two things with it, really. When they started off early, Allaho and Min sort of looked like he wanted to go on with it, didn't he, with Paul Townend? Him and Allaho going at it like that, I sort of thought this isn't really ideal. Probably Willie Mullins is going to be ruining a little bit of what's going on with that. Then Paul almost sort of let Rachel take the lead. Now, Rachel would have sat on the horse, but I think it's the first time she's ridden against him. But to be able to have the balls to go and put him that far in front and then to ride him like he did so aggressively and to sort of know that he was going to stay and know that was the best way to get something out of him was a masterclass from the start. And it was one of those I said that she's either going to look like an absolute genius if she gets this horse home, or she's going to look like a clown. She got plenty of them at it right from an early stage. Horses like Sam Crow that I suggested and hoped There could have been some sort of comeback from him. They just weren't good enough. But it's like a while back when Q Card ran against Waiting Patiently in the Ascot Chase, like they went so hard from the front, and it does seem to ruin horses in behind. And these are like, this is a deep Ryanair this year. There was some really nice horses in there. So to do what he did and put those horses under pressure, and then sustain the gallop himself and go and win the race was just nothing short of brilliant. He's still a young enough horse as well. They've obviously found his trip. The fact that he's got the back form now of an Albert Barton and RSA, you'd think going forward he'll get stronger and stronger, and he should stay that little bit further. Would scare the crap out of me if he came over here for the King George. Like, looks tailor-made to be picking up races like that. Seriously impressive performance. And like I said, it was one of those that you watch it early and you just think, if he does win this race, you know it's going to be good. And the fact that he went and did it, there's a couple of points where I did think he was going to start coming back to him, but proper ride that was from Rachel Blackmore, and that's like a hell of a performance as well. After that, Stairs Hurdle, again, I mean, a really decent performance from Florian Porter, to be fair to him. Gavin Cromwell mentioned that, I think people have seen it as well, that the horse is a bit, I don't know, they would have preferred that if he'd have had a rail on the inside of him, all the way around. And obviously we know that's not the case at Cheltenham, but he didn't look quirky at all, looked fairly straightforward. Again, like Danny Mullins took the ride there because Jonathan Moore decided to sit it out because he didn't feel like he was 100%. It's a hell of a horse to go sit on and do that, especially in a grade 1 at Cheltenham. I did think, like, Paisley had his little bit of a flat spot. I did think when they turned up the hill that Paisley was going to put on the afterburners and come and get him. It felt a little bit more like that Newbury effort all over again, where if he was good enough, he should have picked up and done it. And that was where I talked on Ante up that I pitched him right at the start of the season because, like Big Bucks, when he got beaten in the Cleve Hurdle when he come back, really, if they're going to be back to their best and they're going to be doing what they're doing, like, they shouldn't get beat first time up. And I know we can, like I did with Big Bucks, ran close enough, and like I've done with Paisley there, when they go and do something a bit after, you think, oh, maybe they did need the run. But I think it's just evident now that Florian Porter's a 6-year-old. He's the improving horse in there. Paisley still got beat by Sire de Burley in the race, which for me, I know a lot of people like that horse, but for me, just shows that Paisley isn't the force of old, I think. Which is a shame to see. I think probably the Cleve Hurdle not being run might have done him a little bit of a favour because maybe that Ascot race left a little bit of a mark on him. Be interesting to see what they do after. I hope they go over to Punchestown for the 3-mile hurdle there. Maybe even take an entry as well, but I'd like to see him go over to Punchestown. But yeah, you can't take anything away from the winner. Fair play to him. He was not one. I just felt like I couldn't back him, and then seeing the price he drifted out to, saw the comments, the fact that there was trainer comments there suggested about the rail thing, I thought, I just can't have a bit of cover on him. Fury Road was desperately unlucky in there, was severely hampered by the faller. Paisley just managed to swerve that, and then he got himself back in the race. Fury Road, I don't think he would have been able to get that much closer, given the faller and the fact that where he's actually ended up is so far back. He was actually pulled up. It was a decent effort from Florian Porter, and the fact that he's a 6-year-old, as I say, he's going to come back and he's going to potentially do that for a year or a couple of years after. And it's nice for Gavin Cromwell as well, isn't it? After Espoir de Lan looked like he was going to be a top grade 1 horse for a few seasons to come. Hopefully, we get to see Florian Porter back next year. The stable plate, the shunter, the one that everyone was seeing in every handicap, wondering where he was going to go. I felt this was the race for him to go in. I had a few quid on not chunks, just because you knew he was going to be backed. Gamble successfully landed. Very easy in the end, really. Yeah, not too much more to say. Like, Farclas was probably a bit unlucky, but I still feel like if he was, like, there was enough in the horse that won the shunter that even if Farclas hadn't have had the misery, then it would have been okay. Top Notch ran an absolute stonking race, didn't he? But the shunter, fair play to Emmett. And then, Tell Me Something Girl, which was the second leg of Kevin Blake's mighty treble up today. That was the Mare's Novices Hurdle. Now, I touched on the fact that I thought this race looked fairly deep. Wouldn't have been surprised with, not any winner, but any one of the winners that was sort of single-figure-ish price. She's won that really, really nicely, and it's a brave ride from Rachel to sit out the back because couldn't really get her to settle last time. It was really good. And Magic Day's going out in front. Obviously, the stable second string sort of made a bit more sense now that they wanted to make sure they went a decent enough clip. But that's run a nice race in its own right behind. But yeah, this Tell Me Something Girl looked pretty impressive. I think it's a reasonable field that she's beaten there. A few of them were travelling in like they looked like they were going to do something good. Yeah, be very, very interested to see what they're doing with thinking like for next season, because we already know that she stays. She ran a couple of mares hurdles over the middle trip, and she did well in that sphere. She's clearly stepped up since then, but you'd have to think like she's a proper mares hurdle contender for next year. And then obviously with the mares chase being that middle trip as well, what they'll decide to do with her, because I didn't think she looked overly big, but there's the option obviously like put the kettle on's gone and done it, and they whether they decide to think let's go chasing because it's an ex-pointer. Let's see what she can do as a novice chaser next season. Then potentially the season after that, you could look at the mare's chase as an aspect, or like we've put the kettle on if she's good enough over 2 miles. Just be interested to see her. I'd probably like to see her go over fences from that ex-point background. But up to Kenny Alexander, innit? He knows what he's doing more than we do. So yeah, that was a decent race to be fair. The Kim Muir Mount Ida, I still can't believe he didn't pull the horse up, to be honest, so early on in the race. So I've backed Mount Ida today. Well, a friend of mine asked me for a Kim Muir horse a little while back, and I said, well, he was asking for the Gordon Elliott or Sneezy horse that might be the one, especially when we were talking about the time where Run Wild Fred probably wasn't going to run in the race. I was trying to look for a few, and I felt like this was going to obviously be the one. I wasn't bullish enough to put it out to anybody else, so apologies for that. But the money started to come for it. You look at it last night, it looked fairly obviously she won again just because of the yard and the fact that the Kim Muir was getting weaker and weaker with horses not going in there. But that was a seriously impressive performance to win the way that it did, or she did, and to make all those mistakes early, like was jumping markedly right, like into horses. And I genuinely thought the horse had pulled up at one point when the camera angle switched, which is why I think it was matched at 1,000 on the machine. Just a real decent performance, like the sort of thing where you know that's clearly been plotted for Cheltenham. They've got away with it. They've smashed us up, and like to do what it did early and to still win like it did, just got a filthy amount up its sleeve. And this is it's not necessarily a problem, but this is the thing with the Irish horses when they do come over here, that you know they're rated on what they've shown over in Ireland, which is fine. She's improving. She's been in novice company. To really think that she's going to be able to win and run so well off that mark, like I couldn't completely see it from a form perspective to be like that impressive, to be able to run that poorly and then go and do that. But fair play to them, they've got a nice one there for going forward as well. And we know that you can get some nice winners of that race for going forward. So decent day's racing all in all. So we move on to the Friday. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'll do a preview on my page in the morning, but there's some real nice racing tomorrow. We know that anyway. Zanna here in the Triumph. Hopefully he does get things done. I'm not really on him at anything special in terms of prices, but he is definitely, for me, the best horse in the race. We know sometimes that the juveniles can throw up a bit of a skewy result. I don't like Tritonic, but you could see him running well, or see him winning it if he did. I don't really like Quilixalos, but again, you could sort of see it. So Zanna here's the one that I really fancy in there. Anything else would have to improve markedly. The Willie Mullins Donnelly horse, I think because French Cecile's not running, that's maybe why they've gone for it. But it could be a nice horse. After that, we've got the County Hurdle. I just want to, like I say, I want to go fairly quickly through it, but I just wanted to make a comment on a couple of horses that are running in some of these races. So the County Hurdle, there's plenty that clearly have got a chance in it. Now, Claire de Beaufort, form-wise, the fact that it unseated this race behind Cheetah Bella, the fact that it's in and around the same mark again, like looks the one in the race for me. Now, there's probably some other horses that maybe have some more up their sleeve, but I think Claire de Beaufort has got stuff up its sleeve as well. Captain Kangaroo's been supported. And that's run on, probably will be better on better ground. Milkwood's the one of the British horses that I'm semi-interested in. The problem is the Irish are so far clear that I don't know. But he likes better ground, so it's good to soft at the moment, and I think it's probably going to be on the good side of that. You go back to the Welsh Champion Hurdle, where it was a bit unlucky at the last, but still ran fourth in the Welsh Champion Hurdle. That was off of 141, so a pound higher. Then at Newbury, was unlucky because he got hampered badly at the last. Still run quite well. I mean, the form of that hasn't worked out so good. That was again off 141, so a pound higher than he is now. I feel like he could run okay off the mark, and the ground's going to really suit him. But let's be honest, the Irish are so far clear that you'd have to stick with it. And the way that Rachel Blackmore's going, you can see why people are backing that as well. So not too many opinions probably have changed in that more recently. looks a pretty competitive handicap, to be fair. The Albert Bar, I'm still hopeful that Statler's going to get the job done for me. Liked him from a long time out. Streets of Doyen is another one that, when we found out that Make Good for John McConnell wasn't going to run, he confirmed this would come over and run. Now, he is a good ground merchant. He's won a trial at Cheltenham on good to soft ground, and he won pretty easily as well. He beat Florin Porter, admittedly getting a stone, but Florin Porter obviously has just gone and won the Stayers. Like, the form is stacking up for this horse on the quick ground. Still about 8-1 about him. He's obviously got a chance. But yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Tory Graph, but I kind of see what people are seeing in him. But he's got cheap pieces on that, worries me slightly. And I think Fakir has just been picking up the pieces the way that he's been ridden. So I'd be Statler, Streets of Doyen would be the two I'd take against the field. And then you'd expect Fakir and Tory Graph to stay on, or maybe look menacing at some point, but maybe not get the job done. Gold Cup's going to be very interesting. Again, Rachel's smashing it in the minute, so Plutarch's going to be even more popular. I like Album still. Ground maybe a bit quickish for him. Now, Kenboy, the amount of times Willie Mullins talked about him that as soon as the ground comes up a bit better, that like it would be better for him. And I know he doesn't jump well enough around Cheltenham from what they're saying, but like you give him a bit of a chance now, wouldn't you? That the ground's drying up, so it's a bit of a worry that he doesn't seem to do it so well around here, and obviously the staying trip and all those sort of things. But things are coming together for Kenboy. Froden, obviously the ground will be okay for him. It'll be better for Champ as well because it's not going to make it as much of a test. Manila Indo, still not sold on that one as an out-and-out stayer, but like it's not really telling you anything you don't know in the Gold Cup. It just looks a really nice and hot race, to be honest. So pretty excited about watching that. The Fox Hunters, or the Hunter Chase now as it is, after I haven't gone in with any real depth, but there could be some stuff in there, especially with the better ground that could go nicely. It will suit It Came to Pass, the one that won it last year. I do like Bob and Co as a horse, but again, the Irish just look so far ahead with everything, didn't they? Stand Up and Fight was one that I backed a couple of years back for this race when I was thinking he'll go to Aintree and he'll win the Aintree Fox Hunters. Didn't quite plan out. He ran a get behind Hazel Hill in the 2019. Then he went to Punchestown and was back there. It was still 3 miles. And then he has run back over shorter trips in Hunter Chases and just not really been up to it. But again, I'd be very interested if they send him to Aintree, Stand Up and Fight for the Fox Hunters there, because it's a shorter trip. I think he'd have a proper chance in that. So I'd be keen to watch what he does. But yeah, like Bob on Billaway looks pretty good as well, doesn't he? It's just, I don't know. It's a bit of a novelty race, that one anyway. Mare's Chase, now the fact that Allaho's done what he's done, Ellie May's going to be short, and I don't blame people for that, to be honest. Like on official figures, there's not a great deal that splits the field, especially on the adjusted ratings, but whether you can trust the actual official ratings or not, I'm not completely sold on. Cool Reevy got a bit of a form boost through Mount Ida, beat that one by 12 lengths. Obviously, that's gone and won its handicap off of the mark that it's done today, albeit over a different trip. Yeah, I mean, it looks a really nice race. I'm not really completely and utterly sold on Ellie May, but like I say, after the Allaho performance, you'd be a brave person to back against her tomorrow, I think. But if you've already got some tickets on something else, then wouldn't be exactly tearing them up. Martin Pipe looks a carnage race again. Like there's so many you could make a real case for. Fleur, the Wise Guy, one that I made a suggestion towards as well. As soon as Jockey Bookers came out, we knew there was probably going to be a swing in that with him and Fire Attack. Like I still give him a bit of a chance. Still think it's a nice horse, but I don't think he'd have as much up his sleeve as some of the others might have in here. Yeah, but it looks a stonking race, and all the ones are there, aren't they? So we'll just have to see how that one goes. But this is supposed to be a review, not a preview. I'll talk back again tomorrow. I'll let you guys have an update on my betting positions as well at the end of the week to tell you how much I've won, or maybe if I've lost. How much I've won at the end of the week, just for the sake of doing it. And then I'll go quiet for a little bit until we renew for Aintree, so you'll all get a bit of peace from me anyway. But hopefully you're all doing okay. Let me know your thoughts on some of the performances today, because it's nice to get other people's opinions in there. And on the Facebook page tomorrow, I'll go live in the morning to give Friday's view, go a bit more in depth again. Hopefully do that for like a 20-minute jobby. But yeah, that's me done.